Hello everyone, today we're going to be learning strings, integers, and floats. A string is typed as a string, just a string, and then a float is typed as a float, and an integer is typed as an integer, basically like that. So that's how you start a variable, and then you want to give it its name, so we're going to put text, and then for float we're going to put dec as in decimal, and the integer we're going to put num. Now if we close it off just like this, without giving it a value, it's basically going to automatically give it its null value. The null value for text is just empty quotes. The null value for float, I believe, is 0 followed by leading zeros. I'm not sure how much. Something like that. We forgot to put the equal. Yeah. Leading zeros. The null value for empty integer is 0. Just like that. So the ones we just pointed out earlier is the same as this. Now let's just get rid of these, because obviously for typecast, if we're gonna give them a blank number, it's just cleaner to just do that. Now let's work with the variable text. Oh, and I should say, if you have variables like these three, and they're only gonna be used in one event, and not gonna touch any other event, they're best to be created inside of the event. It basically saves memory. So text will equal hello, comma, and then space, and then just leave it like that. And then we can do two different things to add a string attached to another string. We can do text plus equals, and then we can put avatar like that, and that will equal the same thing as hello avatar that's showing up right here. Or if we really wanted to, and this is just, we don't need to do this, we can add it by doing that and then close it off. Now the main purpose for adding a string with another string like this would be to have a dynamic string. So if we add a string to a string, let's add our name. So we're going to do ll key to name, because inside of ll key to name we're going to have ll get owner name. Oh, get l owner. Yeah. So what that do is that's going to give us our name. So it's going to say hello ugly Ulrich as the result. So let me copy this variable and put it in here and save it, and it's going to say hello ugly Ulrich, just like that. Voila. Okay. I think I covered strings. Oh, there's one more thing. A string cannot equal a variable. That's going to cause an error. That's going to cause an error here and here, basically, but it stops when it sees this. The error is going to be type mismatch, meaning one type does not equal the second type. This is a string, but one is an integer. That's the same thing as me going text equals num. That's not going to work, because num is typecasted as an integer, is created as an integer, but text is a string. Same error, type mismatch. The only way we can fix this is if we typecast it, which is just by putting what type we want it to turn it to in parentheses like this, and then save it. And as you can see, now it equals 0, because num is a null value. If we do the same thing to dec, then we can get the actual dec number, which is 0. And then leading zeros. So let's work with integers right now, because integers are basically like floats. So yeah, an integer num is different. When you do this to an integer, it's not gonna add the number next to the number. It's gonna add it. It's gonna be like 0 plus 1. We're adding right now, and this also works with this plus num, And that's the same thing that goes for num minus minus and minus minus num. So what's happening here is basically at the ending result is just going to equal 0 because it starts off at 0. Here it's adding 1, adding 2, so now the value is 2. Then over here it's 1, and then right here it's back to 0. But what's the difference between this num and this? Why do they even exist both these ways? Well, inside of an if statement or a for statement, not an if statement, inside of a while or a for statement, the one with the negatives in the front will subtract first and then do the loop, while the others, like this, will do the loop and then add. So one of them will start off at 0, and the other will start off at 1, depending on which one you use. Now, with numbers, you can also do math, like 1 plus 2, or 1 divided by 2, or 1 times 2, or 1 to the second power, or 1 divisible by 2. Oh, I was going to say 6, but 2. So if 1 is divisible by 2, then num will equal 0. And then basically, yeah, this. Don't forget to give it a variable. So I believe that's all the math you can do. Oh, I forgot subtraction. So let me add that to the list. And I'm looking at my keyboard for any other mathicals. There's also, I don't believe, I can't be positive without testing, and I have not tested this, but I don't believe numbers automatically follow algebraic's pattern, as in PEMDAS. So if you're doing like equals 1 minus 2 times 3 divided by 4, I don't think it'll follow it. Instead, you have to put stuff in parentheses, like this and like that, you know. Oop. And like this. Let's change that up like this. You know, whatever. You have to put stuff in parentheses, and then it will understand to do the parentheses stuff first. I can't be sure about PEMDAS. Yeah, so that's integers. Let's talk about floats. Well, let's talk about integers one more time for a last thing, dealing with floats. So num equals 2, but can num equal 2.0? No, because 2.0 is a float. What about num equals 2 plus 2.0? That won't equal, that would be the same thing as saying num equals 4.0, and 4.0 is a float. So it will be a tight mismatch still. You cannot do math with an integer and a float and have the variable be an integer, because the ending result is going to be a float. So if you want to do math with a float, you have to put it in a float, unless you typecast it as an integer, the float, that is. But if you have a float, it's common that it's going to be a decimal with like leading numbers. If it's not leading numbers like that, you can typecast it as an integer. Let's talk about floats now. Float is basically like an integer, except you can do that, or you can do like that. You know, it's basically a decimal. There's nothing really much to go over with it. The same kind of math principles and everything else. You just know that you can't do math into an integer with a float. I think that's it with strings, floats, and integers. Thanks for watching. I hope you learned something. Have a nice day.